My name is Lila Evans, and last Mother's Day, my own daughter had me thrown out of her life like a stranger, in front of cameras, in front of influencers, in front of the woman she now calls Mom. I stood there, humiliated, holding a gift I'd saved for months to buy, while Sophie smiled for selfies with the woman who destroyed our family. But here's what no one saw coming. I had the truth in my hands. So tell me this, if your child chose a lie over you, how far would you go to bring them back? I never expected Mother's Day to end with a security guard gripping my shoulder and asking me to leave. I stood frozen in the doorway of the upscale restaurant, the cheerful clink of champagne glasses suddenly sounding like mockery. In my hands was a carefully wrapped gift, a vintage camera Sophie had once pointed out in a shop window. I'd saved for months just to make her smile. Instead, I was being thrown out. There must be some mistake, I said, my voice small. I'm Sophie Martinez's mother. This is her Mother's Day brunch. But the guard didn't blink. He didn't care. And when I looked past him, I saw why. The long table was filled with glowing faces I didn't recognize, people too polished, too filtered, too perfect. Influencers. Sophie's world now, her chosen family, and there she was, my daughter, my Sophie, laughing. She hadn't even seen me, hadn't noticed the woman who used to stay up nights rocking her to sleep, the woman who still kept every school photo tucked into a worn-out wallet. Sophie, I called, stepping forward. Honey, it's Mom. That's when the laughter stopped. Her head turned slowly, like she already knew this would happen, like she'd rehearsed it. Her face went pale, then flushed with a look I hadn't seen since she was a teenager caught sneaking out. Except now, it wasn't guilt. It was anger. She stood up, gracefully, deliberately, cameras tilted, phones raised. You weren't invited, she said. Her voice was ice. You don't belong here. Those words cut deeper than any silence ever could. I stumbled back, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they all could hear it. This wasn't the daughter who used to make me burnt toast for breakfast every Mother's Day. This wasn't the girl who'd once cried in my arms over her first heartbreak. Now she barely looked at me. The gift bag in my hand felt like a joke, like I'd shown up to a party that had never been mine. Someone whispered behind me, "Is that really her mum?" Another voice said, "This is so cringe. She's ruining the whole vibe." Phones were out, recording, uploading, content. I saw Sophie's fingers move fast across her phone, posting a picture, her and Elena, her ex-grandmother-in-law, smiling like royalty. Grateful for the woman who's always been there. Happy Mother's Day to the one who taught me what love looks like. Your chosen family. My name wasn't even mentioned, and just like that, I was erased. The security guard led me out gently, but it didn't soften the blow. Behind me, the clinking glasses resumed. Inside, Sophie returned to her party, her perfect feed, her perfect story. But what none of them knew, what not even Sophie knew, was that I wasn't just some bitter mom trying to crash a brunch. I had proof of what Eleanor had done to destroy our family, and that brunch, that was just the beginning. The day after the brunch, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I just kept seeing her face, Sophie, looking right through me like I was nothing. But shame wasn't the only thing I carried home that day. I had something else, something heavier. A week earlier, I'd finally worked up the courage to clean out Toby's study. We'd been divorced for 2 years, and Sophie had begged, really, for me to clear out his things so she could use the space when she visited, which by then was rare. I thought maybe if I did this for her, she'd see I was trying. But what I found that day changed everything. In the back of Toby's desk drawer, behind a loose board, was a thick manila envelope, no label, just stuffed full. Inside, photographs, dozens of them. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at, but then I saw the dates, the faces, the pattern. Elena Martinez, my ex-mother-in-law, Sophie's so-called second mother, captured in image after image, always with different men, always in compromising positions, always with dates scrawled on the back. It wasn't just infidelity. These men were married, wealthy, powerful, and Elena wasn't just sleeping with them, she was documenting it. Blackmail. I flipped through the photos, my hands trembling. Every single one told a story, but together they formed a map of how my life had been manipulated. That private school Sophie suddenly got into. One photo, dated the month we enrolled her, showed Elena with a city councilman. Toby had said Elena offered to help pay tuition, the renovation that bankrupted our finances. Another image, Elena with the president of our bank. 2 weeks later, we got a loan we never should have qualified for, and just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I found the bank statements, large deposits, names matching the men in the photos, all timed to align with major events in our lives. Elena hadn't just sabotaged my marriage, she bought her way into control, with dirty money, and now she was using that power to rewrite history, to replace me in my daughter's heart. As I sat there, surrounded by the evidence of her schemes, it hit me. Sophie had no idea. She thought Elena's generosity was love. But love doesn't come with strings and surveillance. Love doesn't manipulate an entire family like chess pieces. That brunch, that Instagram caption. They weren't the story. The real story was in my hands. And I had a choice to make: stay silent or fight. I looked at the photos one more time, then opened my phone. There was a number I needed to call, someone who could help, because what I'd just uncovered wasn't just betrayal. It was a crime. Once I started connecting the dots, I couldn't stop. I spread the photographs across my kitchen table like a crime scene. Every picture was a clue. Every bank statement was a confession. Elena hadn't just manipulated my life. She'd orchestrated it, quietly, deliberately, for years. One photo dated 3 years ago showed her with Jonathan Walsh, the same city councilman whose wife used to be my closest friend. That same month, Toby insisted we pull Sophie out of public school, said Elena had offered to help with tuition. Another image, Elena with Richard Brennan, a powerful bank executive, dated just weeks before we got approved for the renovation loan that started the spiral of debt that ended my marriage. Coincidence? Not a chance. Every time we hit a crisis, Elena swooped in with a solution, but she wasn't a savior. She was the one creating the disasters in the first place. She used those men, she used their secrets, and she used the money they gave her, hush money, to control our lives. And Sophie, she thought Eleanor was just generous. She didn't see the manipulation behind the gifts, the guidance, the carefully curated opportunities, and the worst part, I hadn't seen it either, not until it was too late. Every new connection made my stomach twist. Every page of those bank records felt like another betrayal, but I kept going because I needed to know just how deep this went, and that's when I found it. A photograph of Elena with David Morrison, the private investigator who handled our custody case. I froze. That was the year Sophie chose to live with Toby. The year I was painted as unstable, dangerous, unfit. Morrison's report had crushed me. It was full of lies, claims that I drank too much, that I was emotionally volatile, even that I'd been having an affair. None of it was true, but it was enough. The judge let Sophie choose, and she chose them. Now I knew why. Eleanor paid Morrison. She bought my daughter's freedom, and with it, she bought her loyalty. What I thought was a broken marriage had been a targeted attack. What I thought was a daughter's rejection was years of slow, calculated sabotage. I sat at the table with my head in my hands, the photos spread before me like a roadmap through hell. This wasn't just personal anymore. It was criminal. And if Eleanor could manipulate courts, destroy reputations, and pit a daughter against her own mother, what else was she capable of? I looked at the final photo again, Eleanor and Morrison, smiling like they'd just sealed a deal. They had, but I was done being a pawn in their game. I was ready to flip the board. The photo of Elena with David Morrison haunted me. He was the man who testified in court that I was unstable, that I couldn't be trusted, that I wasn't safe for my own daughter. I remember sitting in that courtroom, swallowing back tears as he painted a version of me I didn't recognize, a woman falling apart, unfit, erratic. I kept thinking, how could he get everything so wrong? But now I knew. He didn't get it wrong. He was paid to lie. That photo, dated just weeks before the custody hearing, showed Eleanor and Morrison at an expensive downtown restaurant. She was smiling. He looked relaxed. A deal had been made. She hadn't just blackmailed bankers and politicians. She had manipulated the entire legal system. And Sophie, she was only 16 at the time, old enough to choose, young enough to believe what she was told. After Morrison's damning report, the court allowed Sophie to pick which parent she wanted to live with. She chose her father. She chose Elena. And from that moment, I was locked out of her world. Birthdays, holidays, her first viral video. I watched it all unfold through a screen, never knowing why she stopped calling, never understanding why she suddenly treated me like the enemy. Now I knew. They hadn't just taken her away from me. They'd rewritten the story of who I was. And the damage wasn't just emotional. I'd spent years questioning myself, blaming myself, wondering what I'd done so wrong to deserve being cut out of my daughter's life. But the truth, I'd never stood a chance, because Elena wasn't just cruel, she was strategic. She'd used blackmail money to buy Sophie's tuition, her brand partnerships, her apartment. Every gift was a string. Every favour was a leash. And now Sophie was smiling for photos with the woman who had systematically dismantled our family from the inside out. The influencer world saw Elena as the doting, elegant matriarch, the one who stepped in when I supposedly failed. But I knew better. I had the photographs, the bank statements, the truth, and I had a decision to make. I could stay silent and let Sophie keep living in the dream world Elena had built, let her keep believing the lie, or I could burn it all down. I opened my phone, heart pounding, and scrolled to a contact I hadn't used in years. It was time to stop being afraid. It was time to tell someone everything, because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about justice, and maybe, just maybe, getting my daughter back. The call came the next morning. I was standing at my kitchen window, staring out at the quiet street, still trying to process everything, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Lila Evans?" The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Detective James Rodriguez. I'm with the Financial Crimes Unit. We're currently investigating Elena Martinez. We were told you might have something important." I nearly dropped the phone. For a moment, I couldn't speak, just stood there, surrounded by photographs, papers, proof. "Yes," I said finally. "I do." They scheduled a meeting that afternoon. By the time I arrived at the police station, my heart felt like it had been running a marathon. I clutched the manila envelope like it was both a weapon and a lifeline. Detective Rodriguez met me in the lobby and led me to a small windowless room. Another detective, a woman named Lisa Davies, was already waiting. She looked like she'd seen everything and didn't have patience for lies. 8 months, she said. That's how long we've been building this case against Elena, but until now we've been missing one critical piece. She gestured to the envelope in my hands. This might be it. I laid everything out on the table. Photos, bank statements, dates, connections. They didn't ask me to explain. It was all there, in black and white. Detective Rodriguez's eyes widened when he saw the names. Walsh, Brennan, Morrison. These men. We've had whispers, but never confirmation. He picked up the photo of Elena with Morrison. This explains a lot. We've been looking into Morrison for falsifying reports in custody cases, but we couldn't tie him to anyone specific until now. I told them everything: the tuition, the renovation, the lies. She didn't just hurt me, I said, my voice shaking. She used that money to manipulate my daughter. She turned Sophie against me. Detective Davies nodded grimly. You're not the only one. Elena's left a trail of broken families behind her, but this, she tapped the table, this might be enough to put her away. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was numb, because no matter what the law said, Sophie still believed in Elena, still saw her as the woman who picked her up when I supposedly let her down. When will you arrest her? I asked. Soon, Davies said, but we need to verify the evidence and prepare the case. If it checks out, it could happen within the week. I nodded, but my chest was tight, because when they put Elena in handcuffs, the world would find out. The headlines would explode. The perfect image Sophie had built online, her brand, her following, her story, it would all start to crumble. And I had to ask myself, would my daughter see the truth? Or would she hate me even more for being the one to expose it? I didn't sleep that night. After handing over the evidence to the detectives, I sat in the dark, scrolling through Sophie's Instagram page like a stranger stalking a memory. There she was, glowing at a spa with Elena, sipping cucumber water, her face scrubbed clean and filtered to perfection. No sign of the chaos brewing behind the scenes. No clue that the woman sitting beside her was one police report away from being arrested. And then my phone buzzed. A story post. Sophie sitting on her plush white couch, curled under a blanket, speaking softly to the camera. I know a lot of you saw what happened yesterday, she said. Sometimes boundaries with family are hard, but I've learned to protect my peace, to keep the people around me who lift me up. She was talking about me again. No names, but everyone knew. Comments poured in, heart emojis, praise. You're so strong. Family is who shows up for you. Chosen family wins again. I felt like I was grieving my own funeral in real time. That's when I knew. I had to tell her, myself, before she saw Elena's mugshot on the morning news. So I texted her, Sophie, we need to talk. There are things about Elena you don't know, serious things. Please call me. The response came fast. Mum, please stop. I can't deal with your drama right now. Elena warned me you might try something. Of course she had. Elena had likely been preparing for this since the moment I found those photographs, but I wasn't backing down. This isn't drama, sweetheart. Elena is being investigated by the police. I have evidence. It's serious. My phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. What do you mean she's being investigated? Sophie's voice was sharp, defensive, but shaken. I spoke carefully. I found proof. She's been blackmailing people for years, using the money to control our family. The police have everything now. In the background, I heard another voice, calm, calculated, Eleanor. What's wrong, dear? Is your mother bothering you again? Sophie hesitated. Elena says you're lying, that you're doing this to get back at us. I'm not, I said quietly. Come home. Let me show you what I found. Just look at the evidence and then decide for yourself. A long silence followed. Then finally, I need to think. The line went dead. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. It was the first crack in the wall Elena had built around her, but the silence that followed was brutal. Until, hours later, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Sophie. Her eyes were swollen. Her makeup was smeared. Show me, she said, her voice raw. Show me everything. I didn't expect the conversation with Sophie to end in tears, but it did. Tears, silence, and then something I hadn't seen in her eyes for years, doubt. She didn't scream. She didn't storm out. She sat at my kitchen table, staring at the photos, her hand trembling as she held a bank statement that matched the exact amount of her private school tuition. She said she was helping us, Sophie whispered. She said she wanted me to succeed. She did, I said, but not for you, for control. Sophie didn't say goodbye when she left. She just said she needed to hear it from Elena herself. I begged her not to go. She went anyway. Less than an hour later, I got the call. Mrs. Evans, this is Detective Davies. We have a situation. Your daughter's at Elena Martinez's house, and we've lost visual contact. My stomach dropped. Lost contact? What does that mean? She's inside. Elena took her into a room we can't see. We're preparing to move in, but we need you to stay put. I didn't even answer. I was already grabbing my keys. When I arrived, the street was blocked off. Police vehicles lined both sides. Officers stood behind cars, radios buzzing. Detective Rodriguez met me before I could get closer. She's barricaded herself inside with your daughter. She's not responding. We believe Sophie is unharmed for now, but Elena is spiraling. Then came the words I never expected. She's demanding to speak with you, alone. I froze. No way, Detective Davies snapped, approaching fast. We don't negotiate with hostage takers. But I looked at her and said the one thing I knew was true. Elena doesn't care about the police. She wants to control the ending of her story, and I'm the only loose thread she hasn't cut. A few minutes later, I was wired up and walking slowly toward the front door of the house where everything had unraveled. Eleanor opened it before I knocked. She looked like a different person, hair wild, mascara streaked, smile unhinged. Lila, she said, voice eerily calm, how lovely of you to visit. Where's Sophie? Safe, she said, but you've made quite a mess. She's confused now and scared, and that's your fault. No, I said, stepping inside. It's yours. The house was dark, too quiet. I could feel the detectives listening in through the wire as Elena led me past the living room, past the kitchen, into the back hallway. That's when I saw her. Sophie, sitting on the edge of a bed, eyes wide, wrists slightly bruised. She looked up at me. Relief flooded her face. Mom. I moved toward her, but Elena's voice cracked like a whip. Don't. She wasn't just unhinged anymore. She was unraveling. I gave her everything, she said. Everything. And you took it. Behind me, I heard the front door burst open. The police had arrived. Everything was about to end. The only question now was, would it end peacefully or in total destruction? Drop the weapon. The command echoed through the house as officers stormed the hallway. There was no gun, no knife. But Eleanor's grip on Sophie's wrist was tight enough to bruise. She didn't resist as they pulled her away. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at Sophie like something had been ripped out of her, like the fantasy she'd built, brick by brick, had finally collapsed. I loved you, she whispered. Everything I did was for you. Sophie looked her straight in the eye. No, she said. Everything you did was to own me. That's not love. They cuffed Elena and walked her out the door, her designer cardigan slipping off her shoulder as flashing lights painted her in red and blue. It was over, but the damage, that was still being counted. The headlines came fast. Elena Martinez arrested for blackmail and fraud. Influencer's mother-in-law exposed as criminal mastermind. Sophie lost nearly half her followers in a week. Sponsors pulled deals. Rumors spread. People who had once called her an inspiration now accused her of being complicit. She could have defended herself. She could have made excuses, but she didn't. Instead, she told the truth. In a video that went viral for all the right reasons, Sophie sat in front of her phone, makeup-free, voice steady. For 3 years, I let someone control my life. She gave me everything, but she gave it for the wrong reasons, and I chose her over my own mother. I won't make that mistake again. It wasn't polished. It wasn't rehearsed, but it was real. That video became the start of something new. Sophie walked away from brand deals, from filters, from the illusion of perfection. Instead, she launched a photography business, small at first, but built on her own terms. No fake smiles, no bought influence, just the art she used to love before all the lies. 6 months later, she was back in my kitchen, flipping through old photo albums, helping me clean out the attic we'd ignored for years. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked one night. Exposing her, I paused. I regret what it cost us, but not what it gave us back. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I believed her over you." "You were just a kid," I said softly. "She was a master manipulator, but you came back. That's what matters." Outside, the sky was turning gold with sunset. Sophie picked up her camera, not for a post, not for likes, but to capture the moment. She didn't stage it. She didn't adjust the lighting. She just lifted the lens and smiled. "I want to remember this," she said, "exactly as it is." We lost 3 years, but we had the rest of our lives, and this time we were going to live it, together. If this story hit you in the heart like it did for us, we want to hear from you. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone close, or had to fight to reclaim your truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. And if you want more powerful real-life stories that stay with you long after the video ends, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more coming that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching. And remember, truth always finds its way to the surface.